All right, everyone. Good morning. Welcome back to the Deer Gear podcast. Thanks for tuning in this morning. And today I'm joined on the line by none other than Mr. Dorge of Firenock. Dorge, how's it going this morning?
I'm doing quite well. How about yourself?
Well, I'm doing all right. I've been a little bit better. I'm one-handed operation. I sliced my hand open yesterday. I've been telling everyone that I cut my hand skinning a turkey because I had killed a turkey, but that's not true. But just to make it sound cooler, that's how I said I cut my hand.
I see. Well, actually, as they say, use the right size tool for the right job. So what, in other words, don't use a scalp. I mean, actually, I tried. I tried to use scalpel-like things on a deer. It actually works quite good. I even try an air, compressed air for skinning deer. That works quite well too.
I could see how that would be pretty effective.
Yeah, I actually met the guy who got a full kit for the deer skinning using compressed air. But the one I like the most for skinning deer is the deer skinning kit, using a ball and just tear the skin off like they did
Pull
in
it off.
Australia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I used my. I remember I used my Pathfinder, my Nissan Pathfinder for that job. What I really need is a really good anchor on the floor first.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think a topic that would be fitting for the conversation would be broadheads and sharpness, how to um, sharpen standard broadheads, the sharpness matter, what's the most important factor to penetration of the broadhead. So we'll just dive into a little bit of broadhead topics. How's that sound?
That sounds good. I actually, I would like to start with sharpness. Depends on what equipment you use. Sharpness sometimes can be actually detrimental. I don't say it lightly, and most people would really sort of like think I'm crazy when I say sharpness sometimes is detrimental. Uh, the case of a turkey. If you shoot a turkey with a super sharp broadhead, it may not be good at all. At the same time, if you shoot a deer with a crossbow with a super sharp broadhead, it's also not good.
Because it just creates a slice and that doesn't create a big wound channel or what?
Well, it depends on what kind of equipment you use and what kind of target you use. I remember the first time I ever encountered turkey because I was hunting in Sharpening State Park and all of us in winter time is $2 a turkey tag, which is really quite good. If you shoot a turkey with a broadhead and you don't shoot vitals, if you say like most people like myself who don't know better back then, if you shoot a turkey with a super like a deer broadhead, like in the old days of a three-blade glue on Muzzy, and you shoot a turkey and you look for the biggest part, which is the breast, you shoot through that turkey. Well, guess what? You don't have anything except a few feathers on the floor. The turkey may not even die,
Right.
which we found out because we didn't need vital.
Yeah.
And in case of say deer with
Well,
the
hold on.
ultra high,
Let me go
okay.
back to that. So if the broadhead is super sharp and goes through the breast of a turkey, you're saying the potential of not killing it because it didn't hit vitals. How would the broadhead not being sharp change that outcome?
Well, actually, in such cases, depends on the bow speed. If the broadhead is not sharp, it become a blunt force trauma.
Okay.
And that's the reason if you look at the original turkey head that's designed by New Archery Product, the head is a round blunt tip
Yeah.
with the broadhead on it. So what it does is that when you hit the turkey, it will still cut, but the majority of the KE is transferred to the animal. So in other words, it's like shooting a 22 long rifle at a guy shooting through his lungs. The guy will still go at you.
Right. Right. Right.
But if you shoot a 44 mag, you're talking knockdown power.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense. That's what I figured it would be. The cutting ability allows it to just keep penetrating, but the force or the blunt force of it just creates more carnage and that would
Well,
be
not
the
just that, it's simply a energy transfer because the shock itself can kill you. I mean, a lot of times, I mean, what you're really trying to do is transfer the maximum amount of energy.
okay. All right. So go to the deer scenario.
Well, if you shoot a vertical bow from say 0 to all the way to 70, 80 pounds, the sharpness of broadhead, in the most reasonable sense, sharp is always better. But the moment you pass that 100 kg and up, like crossbow, sharp is not better.
For that same reason?
Actually, the similar reason, but let me bring it back a little bit. If you are able to make a big sharp broadhead through an animal, is always the best. Okay, in always, not absolute. I think this is where we want to talk about the exceptional conditions. Okay, first of all, if you want to shoot crossbow at high speed, you can't get a big broadhead to fly right.
Sure.
So the chance of not killing it is pretty damn high.
Yeah.
So sharpness are not really so minor, because if you don't make it, you're not going to kill it.
Right.
But in the case of say low poundage, the sharpness is critical because you only have so much energy.
Hmm.
As the sharpness decreases, the energy required increases.
Right.
So, but at the same time, 90% of us in North America, we hunt whitetail. I mean, if you use something like with Brad Fulton's help, we are able to confirm a Ramcat SPG, right? A Ramcat 1 3/8 inch take 25 kg to go through, say 150-pound whitetail, lung to lung, both sides. You hear me correctly? 25-pound kg.
That's not that
Now,
much.
no, I mean that means if you shoot a 40-pound bow within 50 yards, you're able to push 25-pound kg with spare.
On a fixed blade.
On a fixed blade, absolutely, because that is the Ramcat SPG is a swing back fixed blade, but Ramcat SPG the 1 3/8, the original, is a swing back, so it's a fixed blade. It's a very effective one. Some of them will get less. Of course, the more cutting surface you have on a broadhead, the more energy you require because the more cutting you're doing. The
Right.
more the broadhead rotate, the less energy you have on cutting because you have to do, in other words, you're fixed to pushing the blade, do a rotate and cut. But also rotate and cut will give you a lot more directional control. So the design of broadhead, the sharpness of broadhead, but right now we don't go into the design today because it would be ridiculous. Let's stick with the sharpness only. Okay. In most cases, sharpness is very good, but then again, you need to look at equipment, your query, and also finally the broadhead. The assuming that it's the same identical broadhead size, it's a basic 3-blade, the 1 3/8 cut. But then the 1 3/8 cut, that itself can create another set of questions, because when you make a 1 3/8 hole, if you simply put a strict 1 3/8 and have an angled 1 3/8, the sharpness change significantly. You know that,
I'm following.
right? So let's assume that every broadhead we talk about today is on the same angle, same cutting, same force
Sure.
to cut.
Yep. Yep.
Otherwise, we can talk about the angle of a cut, the speed of a cut, the sharpness of cut. I mean, the variable just go exponential.
Yeah.
And that's the reason people say, well, we're talking product only. And then the next thing you know, how the product goes in and how the power behind the product goes in, how the power is applied. I mean, there's no end to
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
But
So
I
let's,
think it's very important, right? I think part of the reason, not only because I cut my hand and I'm thinking about sharp things, but part of the reason I want to talk about this is because we spend so much time and
mm-hmm,
throughout this podcast and all of the content
mm-hmm,
on the internet, we spend so much time talking about arrows and what the
mm-hmm.
best arrow is and how to get the best flight. But the first thing that comes in contact with what you're trying to kill is the broadhead. And
Yes.
it's one of the most important factors to penetration and at the end of the day killing what you're pursuing. So I think there just needs to be a little bit more emphasis on the broadhead and what it takes to have a good one and what may not be the best choice for certain scenarios. So I think all of those things you mentioned on the broadhead side we will get to. And we've done
Mm-hmm.
it before, but I think as we get more educated and people get used to hearing it, then it makes more sense.
Well, let me give you one of the best scenarios so everybody can understand. If I give you the best blade on this planet, but I don't give you a handle, how good is that blade?
Not that great.
So even I give you the best blade, best handle, but the connection of the handle is bad. How good is that blade?
Going to be limited.
Okay, I think a lot of people need to understand the handle is the arrow and the blade is the broadhead.
Yeah,
I think that will give you a much better idea. So no matter how good the blade is, the handle have to give the blade the way it need to be used.
sure, sure.
That was where I think a lot of people don't forget about it, and which of course go back to the time that we talk about why some arrow just when you shoot it with high poundage, um, supposedly perfect penetration and it doesn't do anything.
Right. Yeah,
But let's stick with this. Mhm,
I think if you had the best handle
mhm.
available, but you had a poor blade, the the amount that you can get away with cutting is not as good as if you had a really good blade and a less than stellar handle.
Correct. But at the same time, you imagine you got a katana, then you got a scalpel handle. It's not going to work.
Right,
The
right,
handle is fantastic. The handle doesn't match the blade.
right.
I mean, that's a lot of time because people think about that. I have the best handle. I got a fast blade. How come I didn't cut? Then the next question is what blade, what handle, what situation?
Sure.
And I think a lot of people did not match the situation. Just like, okay, I got a really nice chopping knife and I got a, say, the 3-inch plastic handle that's soft. And then I now to use it to, say, chop some chicken. Hmm, it's not going to work that well.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to struggle. You're going to be limited.
Right, but you said the blades for it, no. You said the handles for it, no. It's the way the combination and what you're doing is for it.
Yeah. Yeah, what's the application?
Correct. The application and what you're intended to do is, I mean, just like, I mean, I got a drawer full of screwdrivers and so on. Is there any screwdriver bad? No. It's what do I need it for and what I use it for? Just like, a simple, say, a number 2 Phillips screwdriver. Why do I need 5 different length? Well, have you ever tried to try a 4-inch screwdriver when the freaking screw is at the end of the back of a boiler? Well, if you don't have anything that's 12 inch, you ain't gonna touch it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Do you think let's just use the word majority. Do you think the majority of the broadheads that come out of the package to the consumer are sufficient, or do you think people should spend some time sharpening broadheads?
First of all, I don't think anybody in their right mind should sharpen their broadhead because see, most people do not know what sharpening means. Second, when you sharpen a broadhead, the blade is such a weird shape. Let's be blunt. How many people even got their kitchen knife sharpened to the point that it's better than when they bought it?
Not me.
Exactly. Most people don't know how to sharpen a knife. And second, if they know how to sharpen it, do have the right tools to do the job. Most people will sell you a broadhead. The broadheads are reasonably sharp. I mean, yes, do you like the razor sharp? Yes, you do. But then, just like I remember the days I'm selling my daggers to quite a few knife guys. I mean, the guy who make custom knives. So after they did the sharpening, yes, the thing is super sharp. Then they told me the broadhead no longer shoot right because see, when you start sharpening, taking a material, say on a single blade broadhead, two blade, which is easy to sharpen.
Yeah.
You know your left and right is perfect. You know that when you sharpen the left and the left side and the right side, both sides of the blade, exactly the material is taken away. And you know when you take the material away, you're losing weight. So all the broadhead now no longer weight the same.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, actually, I remember the day when I give to my good buddy. I should not mention name. My dagger when he first tried it, he keep on trying to make it sharp. Well, after one season, I look at his broadhead. Those are 125, and he have it at 117. So freaking, he's grinding away 7 grains of material per broadhead. And of course, I try to spin the broadhead. They don't spin right anymore because when he grind it, left
It's
and
not
right
even.
doesn't grind the same. It's
Yeah.
not the same. The thing don't. So, am I saying that most people don't know how to sharpen? No, that's not the case. I say most people are not equipped or the experience to sharpen a good broadhead.
Do you have any experience with the Stay Sharp guide? It's a broadhead sharpening tool that allows you to set the angle, and they have a lot of guides for a lot of the more popular broadheads.
I think if somebody designs something and they use good, I mean, first of all, I have not tried it. So I think commenting in it will be, what's the word? Unwise for me because I'm just saying something I don't know, which
There's
I
a
don't.
there's a tool called the Stay Sharp guide that's pretty popular for folks that
Let me take a look since we both got internet.
I should be able to send you this link.
No, I'm okay. Stay sharp guy broadhead. Okay, yep. Too easy broadhead reference. It's called Stay Sharp. STAY.
Yep.
I did not. I did not see anything
And
that looks like it.
I sent you the link. Um,
Oh, you did? Let me see
yep.
where the link may be.
There's different ones for like specific angles and specific heads, but it's
Hmm.
pretty popular.
Oh, I see. So you're from a company. I see that. All right. Let me see the design. Interesting. I do not know that, and I have not tried it. It looks an interesting approach, but then you ask yourself this question: the for most of the broadhead blades we have today, they're not really that expensive, and
That's the way I look at it. I would
and
rather
if
just buy new ones.
first of all, it's not that expensive. I mean, how many animal? I mean, unless you're like Manuel or a few guys in the suburban whitetail that shoot over 100 deer a year. How many deer are you actually going to shoot a year?
One.
For you, one. And for me, it's about three.
Yeah.
So if you bought a decent 3-pack that have 3 blades, and of course you keep missing, then I think you got a different issue.
Then your handle might be wrong.
Yes. Or yeah, your arrow setup may be right, or you just need better shooting skills. As I say, practice perfect, make perfect. So you need to practice as perfectly as you should or could.
Right.
So I would say if you are into sharpening, I mean, sharpening is an art. Don't get me wrong, because I make broadheads, and I sharpen all the Firenock stick complex single bevel in my shop using a water-based diamond belt before they leave here. So I do understand sharpening a thing or two. The fact is that 90% of, or I would say nearly all broadhead come to you. It's sharp enough.
Sure. That's what I was trying to get at.
The word enough is, can you do better? Answer is that I would say, if I have to take a wild guess, 85% or more of the people could not do better. Of course, there are some people that are exceptional. Do not get me wrong. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the sub 85 think they are in the top 15 and they make
Yeah.
things worse.
Yeah. It's just
So
not
if you
worth it, in
do,
my opinion. The
no, but the worth it or not is not a decision we have to make. It's the person who decide to do this. Just like, is your time worth it? If you're worth to buying this kit or some other kit and do better than you think it is. I mean, it's life. If you want to do something like that, take the time, learn how to do it. And if you really learn how to do it, and just the process of learning it, in my personal opinion, is worth it.
yeah.
If you want to do it half-assed by thinking buying something and get the result, I would say you're not gonna get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with
You're
that.
better you're better off just buying a new set of blade and be done with it because you're going to ruin more things. But if your intention is to learn how to sharpen and help your friends to sharpen, and you intend to put in the time and actually do put in the time, yes, go for it.
Yeah. And especially if you're buying like an iron will or something that
Mm-hmm.
it costs you $100. Um, they're lifetime warranted. So if you want to keep those blades sharp, then sure. But um, for most of us shooting a pack of broadheads that cost $45 for three of them.
Let's look at the just put iron wheel or the German silver flame and really think about what you just said. Those broadheads, you won't be able to sharpen it.
Hmm.
You know why? The edge is curved. How are you going to
because
sharpen
of
it
the
using any of the tools out there?
because of the bevel.
Yes, no. The entire edge is curved.
Hmm.
You don't have a straight edge. Look at every single tool out there, besides the one that put the broadhead and grind on top, that you can
Yeah.
do the curve. How are you going to maintain that curve and
I don't,
sharpen it?
I don't know.
So think about it. Look at the silver flame and look at the iron wheel broadhead. I mean, it looks like you got two edges, but when you look at the day 6 gear or look at any broadhead, I mean, the iron wheel still have a little bit because they are two different edges. But if you look at it, they are not truly. Oh, they're in this straight. Yeah, I think that will work. Not like the silver flame. The silver flame for sure will not. The iron will because it's made of straight edges.
Yeah.
But then, with like in the case of iron wheel, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You got 8 surfaces to deal with.
Yeah.
That means you need to adjust the blade 8 times before you use to sharpen it.
Right.
You think you can sharpen and take away material 8 times on the same
Evenly.
broadhead
Yeah.
evenly?
No.
That pretty much is my point. But when you look at the old silver flame from German Kinetics, and which is one of the more broadhead in those forms, the blade is curved.
Grizzly Stick makes that now, right?
I think I'm not sure. I think they are the one exclusive distributor of it for a while.
They have
I know when Marcus owned it back, but I know Marcus, he was buying all my stuff back in 2006. Yep, I look at those blades. I look at it and say, hmm. But then, just like Marcus said, if you shoot through a Cape Buffalo or whatever, do you really care what happened to the broadhead?
yeah, it did the job.
Exactly. Actually, I think, in my personal opinion, I think for any broadhead, you can change the blade. I would treat it like a bullet. You can reuse the casing, but at least change the primer, the bullet. That's the deal.
Yeah, I agree with that. One of
That's the
the
reason
Go
mhm.
ahead.
I really think in today's broadhead, if they are designed well, okay. First of all, I personally think 90% of the broadhead that use good material can be reused, but most people don't know how to reuse a broadhead. It is
Yeah.
not about the sharpness of the broadhead; it's the tip of the broadhead, the body of the broadhead, the interaction with the blade, and the retaining of the blade. Those are all more important than the blade itself because we're talking the handle towards the blade.
Right. Right.
I remember when I first got Spitfire. I mean, we're talking back in what, the 1990s and so on. You know what the biggest problem I had with the Spitfire? It's
What's
the
that?
clip. It's the clip that hold the blade.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
use it once. So when the blade is good or not, the more you clip it once, you open it, the clip is gone.
Right.
So how many times you can shoot that blade with the clip?
Once.
Once. So it is not the blade, it's the clip.
Yeah.
And then that's the same thing with the Tackens from a G5. And the G5 Tacken blade is not really that sharp, but it's a very effective design.
Yeah. So the broadhead that I have used the most in the
Uh-huh.
past, for the last 4 years or so that I have the most experience with, is it's called the K2 fixed from Afflictor Broadheads.
Yes,
And
I know them.
the tip of um the tip of the broadhead is
Uh-huh.
not sharp at all.
Mm-hmm.
And they tell
Mm-hmm.
you, like, do not sharpen the tip of it or it will impede your ability to penetrate if it's too sharp. Because people get it and they'll be like, man, it's not sharp, and they try to sharpen it and then ruin the head. Um, I think that's an interesting point that you made earlier about, like, sometimes having the sharpest blade is actually detrimental, because this blade, the tip of it is designed to move things out of the way. It's not designed to cut it.
It's a chisel.
Yeah.
It's very much like the original. The let me give you an idea of what I think of a broadhead cutting. Just remember that we talk about sharpness.
Hmm.
The longer the broadhead, the shallower the angle of cut, the better and easier to cut. The shorter the broadhead, the wider the blade, the wider the angle, the more force you need to cut.
Sure.
Okay. Then you also have to think about when the animal turns the targets towards impact point. The sharper the angle towards the target is not perpendicular. As you increase the angle, the shallower the angle of the broadhead, the worse it gets.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But then the shallower, the longer the broadhead, the more directional control you need to have. See, they are all opposite to each other.
Yep.
So, I mean, to somebody find a reasonably compromise, I think one of the better compromise, in my opinion, was the rage hypodermic, because it got a super long point before the blade kicked in.
Yeah.
So, in other words, you got a directional control. But then, just like the case of I was just using your broad affected K2. If you shoot that head at an animal exceed 60 degree, that broadhead will have very different flight path in the animal. The cut path is going to be really weird, and the arrow have a high chance to steer, because
how
it's a
short it is.
very shallow, because it's how short it is.
Yeah.
But then this is one thing of the older guy would teach me how to hunt. When you look at animal, you want to make sure the angle of impact is as perpendicular as possible for that exact reason.
Broadside.
Yes, broadside. And how many people did not really understand what broadside do not mean 45 degree
No,
walking
no.
away or in front of you.
Yeah, broadside is 90.
Right. But then a lot of people forgot one thing. Even when you are 45 degree, what happens when your arrow is sort of flexing?
If you're at like a 45-degree angle, it's going to take
Your
more.
arrow, you're hitting the angle, the animal at, say, just for argument's sake, you're hitting the animal at 45 degree. The arrow is sort of flexing.
It's going to
Say it
be
flexes
wonky.
very little. The broadhead maybe have less than, say, 5 degree. No, broadhead usually fly true, fly
It's going to
straight
need
because
more
of the
force to
weight.
cut.
Right. But then the moment it hits, that point of the broadhead stopped, right?
Yep.
The tail of the arrows are still doing what? Flexing.
Yep.
All of a sudden, now imagine you got a long handle. He tried to swing one side or the other. What do you think is going to happen to the front? It's going to follow.
Yep.
When an arrow is following the direction of the handle, well, mass over area over time equals to complete loss of energy. When the arrow swings, guess what? All your KE forward is cancelled out, which explains why a lot of people shooting a 70-pound bow, 450 grain arrow, shooting an animal in 15 feet or 20 feet, the arrow go 3 inch and stop and literally swing or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
I've had it happen to me.
Yep. I mean, it did. Well, it happened to the most of us, and of course, I remember the day I'm using. When I don't know better, I was first time I figured that I got a broadhead that will cut anything. I got a ramcat, and I was shooting ultra heavy FOC. Yes, I have those days.
You
I
did.
just wanted to. Yes, I did. That will be the. That will be somewhere. That'll be 2004.
When you say ultra
Just
heavy,
before.
like what kind of broadhead were you shooting?
I was shooting Ramcat 125, but I got all the stainless steel insert in the back with no arrow concept, nothing. I got super light veins on the back, that kind of deal.
Yep.
Well, the arrow actually goes. I figured that will go through anything at any angle you shoot. Well, I was in my good buddy S&P Game Farm spec side, because I know all the bugs are gonna come to the deer farm because all the freaking doe is in heat. So I figured I go to the edge of the fence.
Oh yeah.
I found my ambusher. I'm just sitting there and waiting. Well, I did shoot at the deer, but this time it's beyond quarter away. I was shooting the deer, I would say 70, 80 degree. Yeah, I know. I shouldn't do that, but the sun is going
Quarter
down. I
two or
figured
quarter
that
away?
the quarter towards me.
Wow.
I shot that thing, the deer moved. It literally sliced the deer from side to side, and then it go into its guts. I mean, it was disgusting. I killed it. No, I killed it. You said a good shot? No. You said a long stretch? No. But I killed it. I promised myself I'll never do that again. It was a mess.
I'm sure.
But it died. So what it is you simply slice the animal from the side, then you barely cut your lungs and go into the guts, and then the other side.
Yeah,
So do I kill it? Yes, it's absolutely very dead. Is it a good shot? No. I would never do that again. But hey, when you're young and dumb, you're young and dumb.
that's right.
But then you learn. But then I think this is the reason we do the podcast is you sort of share our dumbness with others so they don't do it again. We have done it. We pay the price. You should not do
Yeah.
that.
The the worst thing that could happen is someone to have that similar shot experience but get a good result, and then they think that that is something that could happen all the time, because it could have just been like a miracle that it worked out well, but you should not attempt that. I had something similar where it was the opposite, quartered away, and I shot the
Mm-hmm,
deer through the rear ham and it came out his chest. And
mm-hmm.
if that broadhead deflected at all, it probably would have just shot the deer right through the rear ham and it went out the other ham, and I just put a big flesh wound in this animal for no reason.
Well, actually, see, this is the time that I talk about broadhead and also usage and angles. I remember the time when I was shooting super low FOC. It was the days of my earlier years before I really go into a selling archery. It's the date of my consulting days. I was doing project management consulting, and I always said buy whatever's the latest on the catalog. I shot a deer in that would be my day one, opening day, coming up broadside. I was shooting aerodynamic solution atom broadheads, the one with titanium wires. That broadhead requires speed, and I don't have speed because the titanium wire is not a super sharp piece, but it was sharp enough if you have about, I would say, 280 feet per second, and I'm shooting about 220 because the air was heavy. The arrow go right through the animals, and I was on top of that. I was using a very very turnable vane, and I got a hole. That's after I killed. By the way, I shot the deer total 3 times before I killed it because it just sit there, and then I shot it another time. It walked up away, and then it died. When I go there, the deer is still not dead. I shot it the third time.
Jeez.
Okay, so when I cut the deer open, when the broadhead goes through the animal, the hole that the broadhead made is less than 3/8 of an inch. So the blade technically didn't do anything. The blade collapsed, and then just now I got a blue point.
Yeah.
Is it the broadhead design? No, it's me. It's the combination.
Because your arrow was too light,
The arrow is too heavy.
too heavy,
Too heavy, and the arrow was also how do I say it? It did not spin right.
Mm.
So that when it spins, I believe that it ripped the blade off the groove. So the blade collapsed. Now I got a broadhead with no blade and go into the animal. I got a 3/8 inch hole. And because the blade is not sharp, there's no hemorrhaging. The moment first of all, the arrow did go through the deer on the lumbar side. Okay. So yes, I got a pencil wound through the deer. That is not super sharp. And because this time the not sharpness of the blade caused this. Because I didn't have speed. So when the blade goes through the animal, it's semi-blunt force. So there is not enough bleeding because it caused the blood to clog the wound. Now, if I have a super shot using that identical shot, if I got a Ramcat Ramcat 3/8, that deer would be deader than dead. Even on an SVG of 1 inch, that deer would be dead instantly because there would be enough blood. Because it was shooting with the atom, but it's not the atom's fault. It was my fault because I didn't shoot fast enough. I did not get the broadhead the way that it need to work. The blade collapsed. The speed is not fast enough. So when I cut it, the blade collapsed. I got 3/8 of an inch, and because of the not enough speed, the blade do not create a cut. It create tear. So the blood just come out, clog the thing, and the deer suffered.
Sure.
I mean, the whole process take me over 2.5 hours to kill that deer.
Yeah.
So the deer actually suffered 2.5 hours. I mean, I did kill it eventually, but that 2.5 hours is necessary.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel extremely bad about it. That's the reason I want to share a situation like this with others. I mean, do we going to do stupid things in our entire life of hunting? I mean, when some of them share, some of them don't. Well, I'm old enough. I don't really care.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Because
happens,
see,
and someone can learn
it
from it.
happens in life. I mean, you have to accept it when you hunt. If you can't accept imperfection and mistake and learn from it, you shouldn't be hunting because that
Sure.
is part of the requirement.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, it's part of the requirement. I mean, you're not going to be perfect every freaking time when you go hunt.
No.
I mean, you can talk about it, and if you think you're going to be like that, hunting is not for you. You can
Yeah.
strive for it. It's not going to happen every time,
Right.
no matter
Yep.
what. Because, but at the same time, don't don't do Hail Mary too often. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, when someone tells me a story like that, that they did take a Hail Mary, so to speak, I understand it. I get why they did it, but um at the same time, we owe it to them to be more choosy on our
Hmm.
shots. But um when it comes down to it, if you have the right equipment and you wait for the right shot, that best outcome is possible.
Correct. And that's a decision you need to make. Wait for the best shot. Sometimes, when the situation presents itself, the preparation for the situational match is what preparation for hunting means. So if the more scenario you practice, the more scenario you know how to handle it, the better you can make a decision. Otherwise, every single shot behaves like a Hail Mary shot.
Right, right.
The same thing with the broadhead. I mean, remember, I just talked about the sharpness of the broadhead and the design, but let's take the design away and talk about sharpness. The sharpness of the blade, the cutting process of a blade is actually on three factors. It's the angle, the sharpness, and the speed with force.
Yeah.
Because if you look, as again, I'll use a typical example. When you look at the front of a bear paw on the claw, the bear is there, you go and grab the claw, you touch it. Is it really that sharp? No. But when you add power and speed, that becomes sharp.
Yep.
Just like if the Adam broadhead was shoot with a bow that is at least 270, 280 feet per second, and the arrow don't turn, that was important for the Adam broadhead, the titanium wires, because now the wire is cutting straight cut. It will work. If you put a wire and you put rotation on it, that wire is no good because then you're cutting the blade with an angle.
Sure.
It's not going to work. So, in other words, understanding your equipment, knowing what you want to do, and the entire combination of equipment, I think is what a lot of people missed.
I
I think that the best way I describe it is that you got the best transmission, best chassis, best engine, best suspension of different cars, and put it together to form a supercar. You think you have a supercar?
yeah.
I'll guarantee you don't.
Um
You got the design philosophy of all of them are different.
yep. What broadhead material allows you to get a sharper edge?
That's actually a wrong question. Because when you say sharper edge, in other words, what application, what design is the first thing you need to come into play. If you say, let's sort of roll back on the simple form. I want a fixed blade,
Yep.
3/8 inch cut, 1 and 3/8 inch cut maximum. Then the sharpest broadhead is pretty much the German razor steel. There's no question about it. And it was done very easily because those are all done traditionally, like every single razor blade. If you look at the design in 17 degree, that's pretty much your answer.
Uh-huh.
In order for razor blade to stay sharp, the hardness of the material is critical. The harder it is, the longer. You know why is it the case? The harder material, the better. Because the harder it is, the easier for it to maintain the edges. When
Okay.
you maintain the edge, you've got the sharpness.
Yep.
But
So
then,
with
if
the
you recall
hards,
history, yes, the harder, but at the same time, when you reach a certain hardness, guess what happened? When you hit something hard, it brittle, it cracks.
shatters. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Is that a way to make a broadhead have the best of both worlds? Answer is yes. Called sectional hardening and sharpening. I mean, like some of the time that when people use acid to sharpen fishing hooks, you're not going to get anything smaller than one atom. What the acid sharpening is. But at the same time, with today's grinding process, is really very easy.
Yeah.
In some cases, that's another thing on the sharpness of the edge. Is it jagged better than smooth? That's another question that a lot of people have. Again, it's because of application and speed. If you look at, as long as we human knowing what animal kingdom have done, the sharpest blade are always jagged.
Like a serrated edge.
Yes, like I said, right. Just like when you look at the ultra high magnification of the tongue of the mosquito, is a whole bunch of serrated edge pointing forward. Serrated edges, actually the reason for that is not about sharp, it's about applying force in a smaller surface. Think about it. You got a blade, say, let's simply say you got a blade of 1 inch wide. You apply force. Assume the edge is 1 micron. That 1 micron or 1 inch, using 1 inch micron as a surface, you apply 10 pounds to it. That means the entire edge have 10 pounds on it, right?
Right.
So if you got a serrated on it, it got 4 points now instead of one long edge. Your force of 10 pounds just have that 4 point. Assuming you're saying 1/10 of it, the force of it just is 10 times now.
Yeah.
Pure physics.
I just sent you a link to a broadhead that has serrated edges.
Let's take a look. I mean, serrated broadhead have what in most cases is that, imagine when the broadhead was touching it, every single point of that serration, with any point that is not there, it become a focus. So the force applied, just say it's a multiplier of 10. In case of that broadhead, would say, imagine all the surface that is not there, the surface is not using force. So if you serrated 50% of it, the serrated point now have 50% more power on it when cut.
Yeah, that's true.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of, but then assuming that you're able to super sharpen. Now, the whole idea of sharp is surface surface area over pressure. It's just like what I say, 1 inch of 10 pounds. Now you shrink it in half. Now it's 20 pounds. You shrink it to a quarter. Now it's 40 pounds. You shrink it to a dot. Now it's 1,000.
Right.
The reason we can apply a lot of pressure in physics is because increasing pressure is very easy. You just decrease the surface. So if you look at serrated edges, the reason that we have so much power in it because the entire edge is no longer on the blade, it's on the points.
Yeah.
But then you need to understand the points get worn out a lot faster.
Right. There's less surface there.
Because you apply a lot more pressure on it.
Mm-hmm.
So is the serrated edges good or bad? Answer is that in most cases they are actually better.
Does it do anything to the flight?
That would depend on design and speed. Just like the one you just showed me, that one is actually will give you a lot more force in the front. I would lower the angle of attack of that blade. In other words, the angle of the blade itself to cut. That itself is a great head if you got enough power behind it. If you got a 45-pound bow with that head, you may not even see anything.
Here, how about I'll send you another one.
Now, see, that exactly is what I'm talking about. Display have a lot more directional control. But if you use display, say on around 166, you got something like a 40% of not going in.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's a 125, it's a heavy. If you use a stainless steel insert with a 166, display may go in about 3 inches stopped.
So the for the listeners, the product that I sent Dorge was the Stinger Buzz Cut. We're looking at the Stinger Buzz Cut made
See,
by Magnus.
this broadhead will be fantastic on a recurve bow.
I think that's probably the majority of people that shoot it.
Because this would give the blade everything it needed to do the perfect kill. Because the angle is such a nice angle, it's such a longer angle. And I mean, if you shoot this on a say on a 65% off with the 600 grain arrow, and the arrow shaft is reasonably lightweight, this will work very well. It's not just I'm just simply saying the distribution of force, how the arrow is going to behave in flight, how the arrow is going to behave on impact.
Right. The other broadhead that I sent Dorge was the Magnus Black Hornet Sur Razor. That broadhead I tested in some like destruction tests and shot it through steel and that
Mm-hmm.
thing was pretty. It could take a beating.
Of course you can. First of all, 90%, I would say most of the broadhead that are made of really hard steel have fantastic ability. But in most cases, when you think about it, the broadhead need to be on the animal you kill, and have the ability to maximize ability when it was in flight, when contact. See, most of the broadhead in today's world do not do well if you shoot under 20 yards.
Yeah, because the arrow's not stabilized.
Correct. In other words, you're wiggling. I mean, the broadhead is flying pretty straight. I mean, you look at every single high-speed camera. I have not seen a broadhead initial launch that is totally wobbling. No, that the wobble or the off angle is only on the launch cycle. The moment the arrow, the broadhead move forward about 15 inch, the broadhead is reasonably stable. It's the arrow shaft that is not.
Yeah.
But then the moment the arrow point stable, no, stuck into an animal or a piece of wood or target, the tail is where all the telltale sign is all on the arrow shaft.
Sure. Now
I mean, if you mhm.
let me ask you one more question here. So we talked about the ability to resharpen or sharpen a head once you get the broadhead.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's say I shot a deer with
Mm-hmm.
let's just use the not the Tomahawk. What's the multi-bevel head dagger? The dagger.
So yeah.
Let's
Mm-hmm.
say I bought a dagger, shot a deer with it.
Mm-hmm.
Should I feel confident in reusing that head on an animal without sharpening it?
Well, that's a very good and bad question. When you shoot through an animal, the broadhead goes through the animal. After it goes through the animal, where did the broadhead goes?
Let's just say it's stuck. Let's just say I didn't get a pass through. It stayed in the animal.
90% of the time, if you did that, unless you got a super low poundage, it must have encountered bones or whatever. In most cases, in that case, the broadhead should be still reasonably good.
Yeah.
But say you shoot through an animal, the finally it goes through an animal, after the animal is round. It's gonna all kind of chips on it. So when you got chips on it, you should sharpen it. When you sharpen it, you take away material, the balancing of the broadhead, and so on. It's a question.
Yeah.
But then it's a decision. That's the reason you should always, when you resharpen a broadhead, you should always check the flight characteristics, spin characteristic. If
Yeah.
you can match all of the above and the weight is not too much off, you should be fine.
Yeah. Or in
But in my case,
my
or in
case,
my
I'd
cases,
buy a new one.
you just see. For me, I've been using my swing blade. I just change the blade.
Yeah.
I check the tip to make sure it's not bad, or I change the tip and be done with it.
Yep.
I mean, in some way, I think in today's current world of expandable or replaceable blade design, unless the ferrule is damaged, changing blade is the absolute easiest.
I agree.
Now, the critical part is when the body is not badly damaged.
Yeah.
A lot of them will be badly damaged. I remember the days of the Ramcat and also the Spitfires. When you shoot through animal with them, the aluminum are no longer in the shape they were machined.
Right.
A lot of them. I mean, not saying they actually will, because remember, when you have expandable, the blade between the blade and the ferrule, there's space. And in high speed, the meat that go into it can expand. And if you do not clean the blade correctly, the meat with blood after a while will corrode the body to the point that you no longer maintain the tolerance of the blade inside the body.
Sure. That makes sense.
And in today's world, I mean, we spend, I would say, get a set of broadhead per season when you really feel confident about it, or you buy something good that you know you can keep it. Spending excessive amount of money on broadhead. Let me step back. I'll give you a fun fact. The most purchased and least utilized hunting equipment in the entire planet is a broadhead.
Yeah. Yeah,
Dude,
you've given this statistic before.
I know it's funny though
It is.
because
Go ahead. Go
people
ahead
will
with it.
go, people will go in front of the things. Oh, this is he saw this one, this one broadhead. He bought 3 packs. How many deer is he going to kill that year? In most cases, for most people, one. So right on the get go, for that person who purchase 3 packs of broadheads, the broadhead usage in 1 in 9.
Yeah. That's you should still have 8 left over and not have to worry about it for a while.
Yeah, but most people next year, what they do, they bought the latest, greatest, and just to be sure, they move back 2 packs, if not 3.
I'm guilty. I am guilty. I get a new
But
pack.
that's
It's just
reason.
something about a fresh pack of broadheads.
Well, if it's really a fresh back broadhead, it'll make you thrilled. Shouldn't you just, after you learn the broadhead, stick with it?
Yeah, I mean, I would buy the same broadhead, but just more of them.
Well, that's not a bad concept. But at the same time, I also people, when you put a broadhead, spin balance it, spin test it. Because you know you have really do the broadhead injustice when you just screw it on and expect the best. Just remember the furrow of the broadhead is not always 5.25 millimeters. That's tolerance issue.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't spin right, it's not going to fly right. It's going to cut right. It's not going to kill right. Again. Okay, let's get back to the sharpness. Speed. I mean, assuming the same angle, the speed of the arrow shaft and the force behind it. I mean, the heavy arrow always gives you more power, slug force. The angle of the broadhead will give you the angle that you needed. And finally, speed. And remember, speed and power is not the same thing. A lot of broadhead would work better when you have speed. When you have too much speed, the broadhead actually don't work in some cases.
Right.
So it's really, in other words, stick with something that actually works and keep improving on what you know and do. Don't think about just because somebody tell you it's the better broadhead and you go and bought it, it may not work for you.
Yeah.
That one of the best examples. Let me tell you this funny thing. I remember when Spitfire comes out, me and my buddy Paul went out for hunting. I told him how great Spitfire is. He went to archery custom and bought a pack and he shot a deer and he didn't kill it. Do you know why?
No.
They got a new guy in archery custom. They give him a pack of turkey broadhead and he thought no better. He used it to shoot deer. It never go in.
Oh boy.
Of course, he went back there and said, this broadhead don't kill anything. Then the guy pointed at the deer. You say turkey, right?
Yeah. Dang.
It was the funniest moment that you ever seen. He thought he shot the deer. Said, "Tonk." The arrow dropped to the ground.
Dang. That'd be a heartache.
Yeah. Huh?
That'd be a heartache.
Well, we all have stupid moments, and that is one of the things I visualize is really for funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Dorge, anything else people should consider for just the sharpness side of broadheads?
I would say if you decide to go mechanical and so on, make sure you got a brand new blade. And if you shoot an older blade, use it for practice. Use some dental force, pie the blade down so you want to open and shoot it because you need to know the fight characteristic. And to be fair, you do need at least the animal you are required with. A brand new set of blade is not that expensive. And spin balance, spin test the broadhead with the arrow together. And if you don't even bother to do that, I don't think you should be hunting.
Agreed. I agree. Well,
Seriously.
I think this was a good conversation. Hopefully you guys picked up something there. And hey, all this talk about sharpness, don't cut yourself. Be safe.
Well, I got enough. Just so you know, I cut my left hand front part of my finger right off when I was building airplane. I was building a airplane when I was 13. I cut the first section of my finger right off.
Oh, God.
So I know what cutting finger means. I pick it up to my mom and say, I need this back of my hand.
Jesus. Well,
Yeah.
practice safe, guys. I hope everyone is out there breaking their bows out. I know it's only the middle of May, but season's creeping up on us quicker than it'll be
Yeah,
August soon.
because you're
And
gonna be busy. Fishing season is already out. Fishing season is in full swing now.
yep.
White bass is calling.
Well, George, you better
All
get
right.
out there.
I've got already. I've got a new rod built. So I'm good to go.
Good. Good deal. All right, George.
All
Well,
right, I'll
we'll
let you
talk to
be.
you next week.
Bye.